Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Safe Zone. My name is Brooke Tesfaye. If you haven't watched the previous video, we're just gonna pick up where we left off, so maybe a good idea for you to go back and watch the first part of this video about the Nikon Z9's menu system. Last time we covered the photo shooting menu. We're gonna go over the rest of the menu items pretty quickly in this video and hopefully finish what we started last time. So let's start. Okay, so last time we talked about the photo shooting menu, and we covered that in pretty good detail. I'm not going to cover everything that's in the video recording menu because it's mostly similar to the photo shooting menu except for a few items, and we're going to talk about those. The first item is the shooting menu bank. You can choose which bank, and you can set it up the same way that we talked about in the photo shooting menu. So we won't go there. Below that is the extended menu bank, so same thing. Storage folder. Now in my case, I name the videos that I shoot with a different prefix from the stills, just to make it easier for when I download the pictures or the items from my card into my computer. It just makes it easier to identify them and group them separately. So my prefix for the video files start with an M as opposed to an S with the for the photo. So MZ9 is what's it's called. Destination is pretty much the same. Video file type, I have ProRes selected here, but you have different options. H.265, 10-bit, 8-bit, and there's also a H.264 8-bit option there. Frame size, I have mine set up right now for 3840 by 2160, 60p. That's where I have it at. But there are a bunch of different options there as well you can choose from. Image area is same as the photo side, so I will skip that. ISO sensitivity, also similar to the other side, the photo shooting side. White balance, same deal. Set picture control, this is where those creative picture control can be very handy for the video side, where you can choose from dream, warning, pop, etc. We also cover that in the photo shooting menu. Manage picture control, we already talked about that, so we'll skip that. Active delighting, similar to the photo side as well. High ISO noise reduction, I have that as normal and similar to the other side. Vignette control, diffraction compensation, all this is similar. Video flickering reduction, this is very helpful if you're shooting under certain lighting conditions with LED lights and that kind of stuff, where it can be, you can introduce some flickers, so you could set that up to reduce those flickers, and you can match the frequency of the light, 50 Hertz, 60 Hertz, etc. Metering, I have it as matrix metering again here. Focus mode on the video side is really nice because we have a new addition that we don't see on the other side, which is the full-time autofocus, which is really handy when you shoot video. So the camera can make that focus in full time, as your scene changes or new subject enters the scene and that kind of stuff. The focus system takes care of all that for you. AF area mode, you can select the same way as you would select on for the photo shooting. Subject detection, similar. Vibration reduction, very similar. You have, of course, the microphone sensitivity that you can actually set up here. Right now it's on auto. Attenuator, it's off right now. You can turn it on. Frequency response, this is important if you would like to focus only on vocal ranges, and if there's a environmental noise around you, like say you're shooting in a city, outside, etc., you want to block out some of that or filter out some of that environment noise, you can choose vocal range just to focus on the vocal range. Wind noise reduction, pretty self-explanatory there. Microphone jack plug-in power, can turn it on or off. Headphone volume, time code, and external recording control. And that covers the video recording menu. Next, we're gonna look at the custom settings menu, where, okay, there you go. So the custom settings menu, so you can set up different options for your focus. The first option is AFC priority selection. That's where you want to select whether you want to prioritize focus or release when you press that shutter button. Meaning, if your priority is to get the focus first, then you put it on in focus. But if your priority is to release and taking that shot no matter what, then you set it into release. Now the focus plus release is an interesting option where if you are shooting a series of pictures, so you have it instead of having it in single shoot mode, you have it in a multiple photo shoot when you press the shutter. What that does is it makes sure that the first of that series of pictures is in focus, and for the rest it prioritizes the release. So that's what that focus plus release means. And in AFS priority selection, you have the same options. Well, we have the option between release and focus. I have that set to focus priority. Focus tracking with lock on. Now this is interesting. When you have your focus locked in, either by using the back button AF on or with the shutter halfway pressed, if there is if the frame is modified, let's say something is passing by, how quickly do you want the autofocus to switch to that new subject coming into your frame? That's what you're setting here. So if you want it to quickly shift focus and adjust the focus based on that, let's say if you're shooting a landscape and you have a bird or something passing by, how quickly you want to change the focus to start working on focusing on that. That's how you're setting here. So you can have it for delayed, which is 5, or quick, which is 1, and in between you have 2, 3, and 4 and other options. Okay. Focus points used, I have it on all. Store points by orientation. This is depending on the orientation of your camera, whether it's horizontal landscape mode or portrait mode. If you want to if you want to set independent focus points, that's where you set this up. AF activation. You have the shutter if on or if on only. So this is if you would like to use just the back button shutter, autofocus activation versus using the shutter button as well. That's where you set that up. Focus point persistence. I have that set to auto. Limit AF area mode selection. If you don't want to use all these autofocus areas, you can deselect some of them. Let's say you don't want 3D tracking or wide area FL or one of these settings. You just deselect them so that when you go through your different focus mode selections, you go quickly through the options instead of scrolling through all of them, if that's what you want. Focus mode restrictions. Have no restrictions there. Focus point wraparound is nice to have that on, because as you use the directional pad to move your focus point from one end of the frame to the other, if you reach the end of the frame, do you want to wrap around and come back or you want to have to go all the way to the other side. So that's what you set using this. Focus point display. Manual focus mode is on, dynamic area AF assist is on, and I have AFC in focus display off. Built-in AF Assist Illuminator, I have that as turned on, so that's if you want to turn it on or off for the autofocus assist illuminator. Focus peaking, that's nice to be able to see whether you have the focus sorry, that's where you would the focus peaking is where you want to see those edges for where you're that are in focus. So it's nice to have that, and you can set it up with depending on the color in your scene. You can choose the colors between red, yellow, blue, and white. And then the sensitivity, you can also choose that. It's a nice option to have even when you have the auto focus on. You can actually, if you have the right settings, and we'll go over that, I believe this might be the next menu item, you can further tweak that focus point even after you have, once you have it, once you have the focus locked in. If you maintain that focus lock by, if you're using either AF on or the half press of the shutter, you can actually tweak that focus point, and when you do that, the focus peaking actually comes up on, and you can see where the sharp edges are. Okay, so that's a nice option there. Manual focus ring in AF mode. This is the option that I just talked about. That allows you to be able to do what I just said, which is use the manual focus ring while you have the autofocus working. So if you have it pressed halfway, you can actually use the manual focus to tweak that focus even further if you need to do that. So that's what that is for. ISO sensitivity step value, I have it as 1/3. There's the option of 1 step if you'd like. Same thing with the exposure. Easy exposure compensation, I have that turned off. Let's see what that says. Choose on or on auto reset to adjust exposure compensation without using the exposure compensation button. Okay, so without using the plus minus there. If on is selected, only changes to exposure compensation made using easy exposure compensation will be reset when the camera is turned off or the standby timer expires. Okay. Next up is the matrix metering face detection. Have that turned on. So when you're using matrix metering, and if you have a subject like someone's face in the scene, and you want to prioritize the exposure, the correct exposure of the face, then you would turn that on because it would make sure that the face is correctly exposed. Next is the center weighted area. Center weighted area, when you're using center weighted metering, for example, you can choose small. If you want that center to be the area that's used to be small, you can use the standard, or you can use an option called average. What that does is it takes an average of all the frame, choose the size of the area assigned the greatest weight for center weight metering. So in average, the description says metering is based on the average of the entire frame. So instead of using that small area or larger area, it takes an average of the entire frame. Fine-tune optimal exposure. Not sure what this is, so let's click on that question mark. Customize the optimal exposure for each metering method. Okay, so that's if you want to fine-tune further the exposure of the various metering options that you have. So that's where you would do that. Keep exposure when F changes. So as you're aperture changes, you can have the camera maintain the exposure by varying either the shutter speed or the ISO sensitivity. That's where you set this option here. I have it set to off. Shutter release button. So you have, that's where you set the option for half press or have it on off. So for the auto exposure, you have it on, I believe that's on half press. Now burst mode, I believe, let's read on that one here. Half press exposure locks when the shutter release button is pressed halfway. In burst mode, exposure locks only while pictures are being taken in continuous release mode. So that's where you can set this up here. Self timer, pretty self-explanatory. You can do a self timer if you're doing a group shot, for example, and you want to include yourself. You can use this option where you can put a self timer delay. You can select the number of shots that you want to take, and then the interval between those shots. Power off delay is where you set different times for the power off energy saving mode on the camera. So you have the options between, you know, for the playback power off, menu power off, when you're in the menus, when you're in the playback, picture review, and standby timer. Continuous shooting speed, I have it set to the maximum the camera is capable of, which is 20 frames per second, which is great. But you have the options to choose less if you need to. So 15, 20, 12, or 10 are the options for the continuous high speed, and the low speed you can set it to whatever you want as well. Maximum shots per burst, I have it set into infinity, but you can set a number if you want to. I have the Delkin Black card in there, which is really capable of sustaining, you know, that burst shot. Like it goes forever, so, but if you can set the option that you would like in there by choosing, you know, the number that you want. Okay. Limit release mode selection. Continuous slow, continuous high, self timer, etc. So that's to limit those options. Sync release mode options. I have it as no sync. That's if you want to sync your camera to other cameras. Extend shutter speeds, I have it set to off. That's if you want to extend the 30-second to longer, I believe. Extends the range of the shutter speed available in mode M, decreasing the minimum speed from 30 seconds to 900 seconds. So that's what that does. Limit selectable image area, that's where you can do that. File number sequence, on, off, or reset. View mode, show effects of settings, or adjust for ease of viewing. So that's if you want to show the effects of your the change you made on aperture, shutter, etc. on the live view photo, you select show settings, effects of settings. Starlight View, what is that? I believe that's to change the brightness of your, let's read on that. Make the live view display brighter to assist in framing shots when lighting is poor. So that's exactly what that does. Warm display colors. You have the option of off, or mode 1 or mode 2, and warm color display brightness. You can select that right here, the brightness. LCD illumination, you can turn it on or off. Choose whether the control panel and button backlights remain on while the standby timer is active. So that's that option there. View all in continuous mode. Release timing indicator. Not going to get to that. Image frame. This is, what did I do? On or off. So image frame, what is that? There's no no question mark on that one, so we don't know what that is. Grid type, we have to look that up. Grid type is, I have it set to 3x3. You have the different options, 4x4, and you have these ratios here, 16:9, 1:1:5:4. A virtual horizon type, so you have different two options for the horizon, a virtual horizon you can choose from, so that's where you set that up. Let's leave that on type A. Custom monitor shooting display. So you have in your shooting display, if you don't want all that information to be displayed, you can choose which option you'd like, and you can deselect the ones you don't want to as you change the shooting display by using the directional pad. You can really set it to the way you want it to appear. So if you don't want this option, you check it off. Custom viewfinder shooting display, something but for the viewfinder this time. Flash sync speed, that's where you set your flash sync speed that you want to use. Flash shutter speed, setting for the shutter speed, the flash shutter speed. And exposure compensation for flash, entire frame or background only. Auto ISO sensitivity control, modeling flash on or off, auto bracketing. If you want to set your auto bracketing to flash and speed or flash speed and aperture, etc., these are where you set that options. Bracketing order. If you want to change the bracketing order to different from the normal, which is, or the standard is, you have the metered shot, you have the under, and the over. So whether you take 3 or 5 shots or more, that's how it's set up. But if you want to change that order, you can do that here. Flash burst priority, prioritize precise flash control, or prioritize frame advanced rate. And then the customize eye menu, which is really important here because this is where you come to customize those quick options that you want to get to, that you don't want to have to hunt for in the menu structure, because it's easy to forget where a menu item is. So if you want to get quickly to it, especially when you're in the shoot, it's really important. So you would set what's most important for you in this customize eye menu option. And depending on which bank you're in, you can select different options for what the eye menu does. I believe that's the case. And you can also set it differently for the playback than if you're in playback mode versus the shooting mode. Okay, and these are the custom controls. This camera has a bunch of custom buttons that you can actually program to, again, as a shortcut. So if, this is where you would set that up. You can also do set up custom buttons if your lens supports it. So this lens that I have on right now supports 3 of them. So it has the 2 buttons up top, or on the side right here rather, and it also has a ring, a custom ring, which is, so you have your zoom ring, you have your, well, this is a prime lens, so it doesn't have the zoom ring, but it has a focus ring, and then that's the third option. If it's a zoom ring, or in this case the second option would be your custom ring, and you can set that to control your aperture, your exposure, not your exposure, your ISO, or your shutter speed. Not your shutter speed. So aperture, exposure compensation, or ISO is what you can set that up to, which is nice. And this is for the playback, when you're in playback mode, to have different settings for those buttons. Control lock, shutter speed lock, aperture lock, or focus point lock. Let's look at what that does. Lock shutter speed and mode S, aperture mode, and aperture in mode A, shutter speed and aperture. This option has no effect in mode P, so that's to lock those options. Reverse dial rotation. If you don't want to zoom this way, you want to reverse the rotation, that is where you set this up for. Oh, actually, this is for exposure compensation and shutter speed and aperture. So yeah, so you want to reverse the dial rotation to be this. It's from the increasing, decrease, or versus decreasing when you go this way versus the other way. That's where you set that up. All right, release button to use dial, reverse indicators plus or minus. So that's another. These options are handy, especially if you're a lefty and you want to use a different direction, for example. Reverse ring for focus, the same thing. So it reverses the focus ring. Control ring response. This control ring, you can set it high or low, I believe. Yeah. So how much of a change occurs when you turn that control ring is what you're setting here. Full frame playback flicks. I believe this is for the touch screen, if I'm not mistaken. Flick up, off, flick down, off, flick advanced direction. Yes, looks like it's for the touch screen. Customize iMenu. Now we're in the video side of things. So some of these we've already covered, so we'll go quickly. You can have different iMenu for video, so that's where you customize that. Custom control, same thing. Control locks, we've already covered that. Limiting AF area mode selection, focus mode restrictions. We've covered all this for on the photo side. This is where you do it for the video side of things, because you can have different settings for photo versus video, which is really nice to have. Sensitivity, zebra pattern. These are more video specific settings. Custom monitor shooting display, custom viewfinder shooting display. Okay, so that is the end of the custom settings menu. Excuse me. Now for the playback menu, we're going to quickly go over that because it's mostly self-explanatory there. Delete and playback folder. If you want to select the folder that you want to use for the playback. Deleting pictures from both slots. That's nice because if you want to, if you have two cards in there and you're using, let's say, backup mode, where you're copying one picture into another, or you're using RAW and JPEG. If you want to delete, if you don't like a picture and you're deleting it, this is the option where it allows you to also automatically delete it from the other card, which is nice. Dual format recording, filtered playback criteria, playback criteria, so that's nice. Picture review, you can turn it on or off. What do you want to do after you delete a picture? You want to advance it, or you want to go to the previous one? That's where you select set here. After burst, show. So after you take a burst of pictures, what do you want to show? You want to select if you want to show the first picture in the burst or the last picture. That's where you set that up. Rotate tall. That is if you want to rotate the playback menu items as you rotate the camera. If you hold the camera in portrait versus landscape mode. Okay, and next up is the setup menu. That's where you can have well, you have the format memory card, which in these pro bodies you also have the option of the 2-button format option, which is a great option. But this is another way of doing it if you want to format it from the menu item. Language, you set up your language for the menu. Time zone and date, this is where you set that up. Monitor brightness, you can set that up right here. Monitor color balance, you can really set nice options there. Okay, and let's see, viewfinder brightness, viewfinder color balance, finder display size, standard or small, auto rotate info display on or off, fine tuning options for the autofocus. You can fine-tune options for the autofocus depending on the lens that you use, which is nice. Non-CPU lens data. So if you use an old lens that doesn't have that can't communicate with the camera, then you can set up your lens focal length and maximum aperture so that you it's saved and it will remember the lens next time you're here, and it's nice to be able to do that. Save focus position. That's if you want to save the focus position that you last used, if the camera goes in power saving mode and that kind of stuff, where you turn it off and turn it back on. Sensor shield behavior at power off. This is important to turn on because when the camera came, actually it was off, and when I changed the lens, I noticed that the sensor was exposed, so I quickly turned that on. So this is the behavior when you power off the camera. You want the shield to come on or not, is where you sense that, where you set that up. Clean image sensor, self-explanatory there. Image just off reference photo. That's if you want to take a reference photo that you can use in order to clean up a dusty or noisy image sensor. Not noisy, I should say, with dust on it. Pixel mapping. What is this option? Let's see. Check the image sensor and optimize image processing functions. Okay. Image comments on or off. Copyright information. You can have your copyright information that's embedded in the metadata of the picture by going in here. IPTC, edit, save. Voice memo options. Let's record your voice memo and how the audio output level, etc. You have a microphone to record a voice memo on the back of this camera here. Camera sounds. This is where you turn on or off your shutter sound, your beeping sounds, the volume and the pitch for the shutter, and that kind of stuff. Silent mode, turn it on or off. Touch controls. If you want to disable the touch screen, you can use that. HDMI. This camera has a full HDMI on the side. I'm actually hooked up right now using the HDMI to the Atomos Ninja there, and you can set up the a range of options for what you want to output. If you don't want to output as much information, you want to have a clean output, you can set that up here too, and resolution and that kind of stuff. USB connection priority. Upload versus shooting. Okay, so when you have a USB connectivity, what's your priority should be? Is it uploading or shooting? Is what that is. Location data built in. This is really nice because this has a built-in GPS that can store your location data as you shoot and geotag your pictures. So that's really awesome, great. So you can set some options for that here. Conformity markings. Okay. Battery info. You can see how old your battery is, or you can see how much charge you have in your battery, or the number of shots approximately. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but that looks. Number of shots is 55. I'm pretty sure at 68% I have more than 55 shots available, but that's what that means. USB power delivery, on or off. Energy saving mode, on or off. Slot empty, release lock. Save load menu settings and reset all settings, and firmware version is where you would come to update your firmware. When this camera actually came, it came with firmware 1.0, so I updated it to 1.1 a couple of days ago. And then you have the network menu. You can set your airplane mode here, wired LAN on or off, connect to smart device using Wi-Fi connection or Bluetooth. Connect to a computer, connect to FTP server, so you can do your network settings and all that. Connect to other cameras, USB, start via LAN, router frequency band, depending on if you want to choose both the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz or just 2.4 or the 5, the MAC address. All right, so and the last option that we'll cover is the My menu. Now, My menu is a really important thing to have in addition to the I menu. You can store here all the items that you would want to get to as quickly as possible. So in My menu, you can really put a lot more stuff than the I menu, and you can rank them. You can delete some of the stuff if you don't want to, etc. So it's really important to set that up for your need. And that is the last item that is in the menu. So that will be the end of our video. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.